Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome to Stampin' Saturday. This is the day of the week that I play with stuff that we carry in our store and show you ways to use it and feature stamps. I typically try to feature stamps and today's going to be one of those days. This is a new embossing folder that Vince actually bought and I didn't even know he was getting it, but I love it. Do you see that it's trees? I love how it looks. And you guys have probably seen all over the internet all of the embossing and tree and stamping and inking embossing that has been done. And I thought, can we do that? Yes, we can. So let's play with this for a second. First, you're going to need your Cuttlebug. I'm going to put it off to the side a little bit here. I think you guys pretty much know how this guy works. If you don't, I have a video showing how it works because I'm going to work over here too to show you what I'm doing. Okay, so here's the idea. So this embossing folder has an embossed and a debossed side, okay? We want to play with first this side that is raised. So this is the image raised up. This is the image pressed in, okay? I want to play with the raised up side. The reason is I'm going to put some texture on this before we emboss it, and that's what's so cool today is playing with texture. You guys remember the stamps that I have called Relic, which, oh my gosh, I've used this for everything under the sun. You cannot imagine all the things you can use it for. And today I'm going to show you another one. I love white birch trees. They are my favorite. And so I'm going to use some white cardstock. And I'm going to use what we have affectionately called the bacon stamp from the Relic set. Some people say it looks like bacon. I think that's funny. It's also zebra or wood grain or what have you. And I'm inking it up with some Memento Rich Cocoa ink. And I'm just going to run that again on here. And I'm going to take this stamp and holding it this way, because that's the way the bark on the tree should go, I'm going to stamp this onto the embossing folder on those raised tree images. Now you're probably going to have a hard time seeing this, and I will lift it up into the camera so that you can, but I'm going to go all the way across all of these trees with this stamp. And what this is doing, if you've ever played with a technique called kissing, where you can take one stamp and kiss it onto another stamp and get basically a whole different stamp out of it. It's kind of the same thing, but we're doing it with birch trees, or we're creating birch trees. You could certainly create other textures using other textured stamps and your embossing folder. I just think this is super cool. All right, I'm going to turn this so I can finish the other edges. So I'm going to do that by just inking up about half of my stamp and just continuing out where those stop. And it doesn't matter if they cross over, it's bark. So if some of it's thicker than others and some of it's thinner, it does not matter. I think this is a super cool technique. And I just love texture. I've been playing with a lot of texture lately, and you're probably going to see more texture stamps coming from me because I'm really enjoying it. All right, one more time, right here on the bottom, and that's it. Now, I'm going to bring this up to the camera and let you see it, and then we'll work on it. Okay, so you can see on those trees now that image is stamped. Okay, the other thing I want to be sure of is I want to, anywhere that I have ink where it shouldn't be, like right here on this corner, I just want to wipe that away, and that will keep it from getting onto my paper. So anywhere that it shouldn't be. Matter of fact, I see a little bit here where I got a little wiggly with the stamp. No big deal if it's on your paper. We're not going to stress about it. So now I have a piece of white paper that's going to go on top of here. But before I do that, I'm going to set my plates into the Cricut, or into the Cuttlebug. Now here's the thing. I know this ink is sitting here and it's kind of stressing you out, but here's what you can do. You can huff on it. So that is to breathe hot air onto it, and that kind of brings the moisture back. Okay, now I'm going to lay this guy right on top. This piece of paper is 4 inches wide and it's about 5.5 tall. Now I'm just going to feed this into the Cuttlebug and emboss it, and it is going to be so cool when it's finished. So I'm going to feed this through. I want to take this out with you guys watching it because the reveal to me is the most fun part. I'm going to zoom you in. Okay, so I'm going to take the B plate off. Here's our folder. Now look, you can really see that texture there, right? And now when I open this, not only do we have the texture, but we also have that image of the trees. How beautiful. And the way we did this, now this is where it gets a little confusing. Remember how I said we had a raised side and a lowered side? We put our texture on the raised side, but when we embossed it, it pressed that texture in the tree down in to the paper. That means we can do another technique on it, which I know you guys love because you've been doing it like crazy, and that is the dragging technique. Remember? Memento. This is Memento Paris Dusk ink. Let me get some scrap paper. You guys have seen this before. I use a spiral bound notebook and I reuse it over and over again. I'm going to lay this here. Make sure this lays nice and smooth for me. All right, taking this Memento ink pad, I'm going to drag this over and make the night sky. Ready for this? It's so pretty, y'all. And the texture of the trees gets pushed back into the paper, and it's so pretty. To me, it's just gorgeous. Now, this is one light pass. So see how we have like a night sky in our trees? How cool, right? I'm going to go over again. You can do this as dark as you want. Matter of fact, I'm going to do one side really dark and leave one side with just one pass and let you look at the difference. The only thing you have to do is make sure you don't tilt your ink pad, okay? Don't tilt this guy like this because that'll get into those grooves. Leave it nice and flat. Look how beautiful. I like it darker, so I'm going to keep going on this side as well. I just love how this looks. So look at our beautiful tree night sky. Now let's turn this into a card. For the card, I'm going to be using one of the owls from the Alton and Olivia set, and I'm going to use this branch right here. So first I want to stamp that branch and then fussy cut it out. So I'm going to put a piece of cardstock into my Misty. I'm using the Misty because I want to show you something else we can do. This is not a new technique. This is called kissing. I was talking to you about that when we did the embossing folder. I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to take this branch here, which is going to go onto our card in a moment, and I'm going to go back to the texture stamp, and I'm going to use the same one. I could change it up, but I think I'll just use the same one. And I'm going to ink it with that rich cocoa ink again. Okay, nice and juicy there. And then I'm going to lay this over this branch piece. So I'm kissing this onto my branch stamp, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing here at the end just to get that texture all the way down. And you can see I'm not being real fussy because it's a tree. I just want to make sure I have ink on all of the branch, okay? Now then I can bring this over and I can stamp this down, and look what we're going to get. Look at that. We get a textured branch. It looks like wood grain. How cool, right? All right, I'm going to fussy cut this out. I love this technique. It's not new. I've shown you guys doing it too with our feather stamp. Anytime you have a solid image stamp, this is a great thing to do to play. So now we're just going to cut this branch out for our card. And I'm going to fussy cut because I want to cut it all the way to the edge. I will tell you, to my brother scan and cut friends who might want to fussy cut this image is broken. And what that means is these wood grain pieces that we stamped by doing the kissing causes there to be open edges or open lines in the image. And you might not can get a good cut on your scan and cut with that. What you can do, however, is draw around the image with a solid pencil or pen line and have it cut that edge, and you'd be fine. But this is such an easy one to cut that I'm just going to do it like this. So you can see here now that the branch is way too similar, right? I showed you that because I wanted to show you how to get that wood grain for your projects. But here's something else I'm going to show you. Now that I've cut it out, I can flip it over and turn it any color I want and have the branch go in the other direction. So check this out. We're going to do this as well. We're going to go back to our scrap paper. We're going to pick up this branch, and I'm going to go back to that rich cocoa ink, and now I'm just going to drag this ink on this branch so it'll go in a different direction, and we'll get a dark branch. Now you of course could just cut a branch out and of any piece of paper, what have you. I just really wanted to show you how to use that solid image to get the wood grain, and now we have a brown branch. So we can take this back to our card, and now this one will show up. See? Much cuter. Look, messy play. My hands are so dirty right now. That is my dirty wet wipe. I love that. I'm going to do another one and clean my hands up real good. So now I've got a little owl from that stamp set, and this is the winking owl. I'm just going to put it on a little piece of white paper, and I'm going to use the stamp positioner to stamp it, and the reason is sometimes I don't get great impressions when I use the Memento ink. I think I've gotten kind of spoiled from using VersaFine because VersaFine just gives you this beautiful dark image, but it doesn't work well with alcohol markers, and I want to color her. So I'm going to stamp her once, and you can see here the eyes, you might not can see it from far away, but the eye's a little bit splotchy. I'm going to do it again. It's in my Misty, which means I can stamp it one more time with no worries. So ink this little girl up again. I say this is a girl because I'm going to make her a girl today. And now we have a nice solid image stamp. So I'm going to use my Coloristas, and I'm going to use the number 5 set. This is the one with kind of the army brown, army green colors, kind of the olive color scheme. I like these. You can see here what they look like here on the back. Let me get that where you can see that. That's the colors that come in this set. And these are alcohol markers, and some of you guys have asked me, do they blend? They do blend. Now, these colors are not necessarily colors that blend together well because they're different families. These are made for coloring more than blending, but they do blend well, so you can use them for that. All right, let's start with some green, and let's make the tummy green. The other cool thing about these is they have this really pointy tip, two kind of bullet tips, and one is real pointy and one is a little thicker. That's really handy for getting into small spaces. Now I'm going to color these wings kind of a darker brown. I think that'll be cute. I'm going to do a little bit of blending to show you. These two colors are not terribly far off, but they're not perfect. That one I just did was called Maple. This one is called Sandstone. I think I'll just show you a little bit what I'm talking about. It won't be a perfect blend, but it won't be terrible. It'll kind of look like feathers, but you'll be able to see how I can sort of blend out that line, even though these are not, you know, the perfect colors for that. It's not bad. It just makes the little wings there look a little darker on the edges. I think I'll do the same around the body as well. From the same set, I'm using the color that is called Gold for the nose, for the little beak. And I also like to use it on the little feet. I think it's cute to have the little pop of color there. Now, before I'm too done with this little guy or girl, I'm going to do some stitching. I like to do stitching on little characters. I think it's cute, and I think the white against the color really gives it some, I don't know, dimension, or makes it pop off the page a little bit. So just some stitches here and there, wherever I want to put them. Maybe some on the wing. She's pretty pale, so it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to color in that dot in her eye just a little bit bigger, just so I can have a little more white there. I think I'll stitch around the edges as well. If you did her darker, the stitches would be super cute. This is one of those things that you're going to see when you get up close, but you're not going to see it from far away too much. So you can see how those stitches just kind of waken her up a little bit. I like it, even though she's winking. She's not asleep, she's just winking. Now I'm going to fussy cut her out. Now I'm just going to take a black Spectra Noir marker and go around the edges. And I want to thank my sweet subscriber for sending me this marker. Oh my goodness, she's heard me complain enough that I didn't have my Spectra Noir black anymore because I've lost it. So she sent me one. Thank you so much for that. And I'm just going to go on the edges and color in the white so that this looks like one solid piece and that white is not showing from the cardstock underneath. Here's your tip for this. Make sure you put your marker behind the image, because see how messy it can get? You don't want that on the front. And if your marker were to slip and go down, it's going to slip in the back and not the front of the image where you spent all that time coloring and cutting. So now we've got our branch and our little owl. I have not put it down yet. We're going to put it down in a minute. But I want to do a sentiment, and I think I want to hang it off this tree or somehow make it look like it's hanging off the tree. And the one I want to use is the one that says, "Who loves you?" because I think it fits there really well. So let's make a little sign for it. So I've got myself a little piece of cardstock to be the sign. I'm taking that piece that looks like frayed burlap, and I'm going to ink it up with some old paper distress ink. Then I'm going to stamp it off and second generation it onto this little tag piece, onto this little sentiment piece. Only because I just don't want it to be stark white against our dark blue background. I'm really not looking for a whole lot of color. I just wanted something there to kind of make it not stark white. And that's working. I'll do it again, and I'm just going to get kind of messy with it to give myself texture here before we stamp the sentiment on. Now for the sentiment, I'm going to use some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I just think it's perfect for these sentiments. I love the way it looks. So I'm going to stamp this onto that little piece. And look, how cute is that? And it's just a little bit not white. You'll probably not even be able to tell that in the camera. Let's see if we can get close enough for you to see it. Yeah, there's a little texture in the background, so it's not stark white. All right, let's look at the card and see if we can put it together. So I've decided I'm going to thread through this little sign in 2 spots with some thin thread, and through 2 spots on this little tree limb, and tie this little sign on. I might just knot it. I'm not really sure yet, but I've got the 4 little holes made. So 2 in the sign and 2 on the tree branch. I'm going to use a needle threader. That's what this guy is. It's a needle threader, and it has this tiny, which you cannot even see, wire that pokes out here. And what you do is, it's just like threading a needle. You're going to poke this through the hole. So that's going to come out the back side, and it leaves you a much larger hole to put the thread into. Now you can do this with dental threaders, which I've used before. They work great. I just thought I'd like to have something a little permanent in my craft room. So now I've got that. I'm just going to pull it through the hole, and look at there. We got it threaded on one side. Now I'm going to let that piece hang there, and I'm going to thread another one on this side. Now this is such fine work, and this is not necessary. You could certainly just glue this sign straight down. Sometimes I just like to play and see what we can come up with. Pull that through. All right, so I've got the front through. Now we need to thread these pieces onto the tree. So first I'll put my needle threader through the tree hole that I made. If you're using a bigger hole than I am, it'd be super easy, but I wanted my hole to be a little small. I'm just going to feed this end through the threader, and then pull it through the branch. Perfect. Show you what I got so far. So we've got the thread going through the branch, thread going through the sign, and now I'm going to do one more side right here. I'm going to feed this threader through the other hole and pull that other piece of thread through. So there we go. I have some of these in the shop, by the way. I bought some and put them in our store in case you guys were interested. I just kind of like having something a little more permanent for this kind of application. Well, let me show you what we're working with. So pull this thread here so you can see what we've got. We'll pull this thread through a little more to make them a little more even. And now you can see that we have, just like this, we have our thread through both sides. See, so I'm going to take the thread that's coming out of the sign, and I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to use my reverse tweezers like I do all the time. You see me do that a lot. So there's one knot, and I think one is enough to hold that in place. I'm going to pull it to it, and it sure is. And then I'm just going to trim this off. So we have one knot in one side of our sign, okay? This is such delicate work. It's so silly, but I just wanted to do it. I know a lot of you are going, nope, this is not for me. This is too delicate. But sometimes you have a minute and you want to play and you can get stuff like this done. I'm going to thread that one through and make another knot. And pull it up onto the sign and make sure it's big enough. And it is. And then I'm going to trim this out. Just like so. Now the tree itself. We have a couple options. We can tie the knot just like we did there. Or we can get the sign where we want it and then just tape it into place, which may be what I end up doing, but a knot would be really cute, wouldn't it? Let's see if we can do a knot. So now I'm going to tie a knot at the top. These are not going to be perfect. Get it? Knot. Haha, very funny. All right, so same thing. I'm going to reach through and grab this loose, pull it out, just like that. Then I'm going to hold this thread at the tree. Part of the loop, I'm going to hold it at the tree and pull. And that will make my knot go down to the tree itself. As long as I hold that loop there and keep it sturdy, that will keep my knot low to the tree where I want it. Just keep manipulating it till it's there. So that's pretty close. Let me trim that off. Okay, so I did it, but it's a little crooked. So I'm going to show you my plan for fixing it. Just because it's on this branch, and this branch does not have to grow straight. Does that make sense? Tree branches don't. So I'm going to put my sign straight, but I'm going to let the branch be crooked so that my knots make sense. I just had to be fussy, didn't I? Just had to mess with it. Now we're going to need some foam squares because I want to pop these up. On the back of the sign, I'm going to put a couple of foam squares. You could let it hang loose, but I think it will be cuter and probably live longer in an envelope and things like that if I go ahead and pop it up. For the branch, I'm going to trim some of these guys in half, so I can run them down that little thin branch. And I told you guys before, anytime I'm using foam squares on an embossed piece, I use more foam squares than I really need to so I can make sure that it stays on that raised and lowered paper that's underneath it better. So I'm putting a little pressure on the branch to try to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to be. There we go. So our sign is straight, our branch is angled. That's cute. I like it. Now we need to put our owl at the top. And she needs to be popped up as well. Look how cute that's going to be. So some dimensional foam on her. So let's put her right here on the top. sitting on that little branch and saying, "Who loves you?" How cute is that? I like that. Let's put it on a card base. Just taking some art and glitter glue and gluing it straight down. My bottle needs to be refilled there. Just going to glue it straight down to the top of a card base. This is just a white card base. I think I have enough dark on here that I don't need to add any more dark. And in hindsight, this is the first time I did this card start to finish. I probably would use a lighter blue in the background just because I think she would pop better. But I still kind of like the night sky. I think that's really cute. So who loves you? Precious, right? So how about that for playing with your stamps? We used a lot of stamp sets today, but we got a lot done. All this texture in our embossing folders, and imagine what you can do with the embossing folders you have in your texture stamp sets. I'm very, very tempted to play with all of these other images on floral embossing folders. Imagine taking these and doing them in color on some floral and then getting textured flowers. I think that'd be beautiful. And I know you guys are going to come up with something even better than I did today, and I cannot wait to see it. So please head over to our Facebook group that's called Maymay Made It, and so did I, and share with us what you're doing. Look how cute she is winking at you. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. Until next time, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.